So we're here in a field next to this beautiful church, and I've got something quite exciting to show you. I actually spotted these from the top deck of a bus, and I got very excited. So I've come back in order to show you. And it's one of my favourite things at this time of year. They're relatively common, they are delicious, and they're an easy, accessible mushroom for beginner foragers to learn. So with all them things ticked, I think it's time to introduce you to the field mushroom. So these are really, really good to see. I've never found them here before, so it's nice to see another spot that they're popping up. And it's getting me really, really excited for the mushroom season. But I'm not going to pick these ones from here, it's a little bit too close to the road for me. I'm going to go to another spot that I know where I think there might be some. So stay tuned, and today I'll teach you how to identify a field mushroom. So the field mushroom may look very familiar to you, and that's because it's in the same family or genus as the cultivated mushrooms that you buy in the supermarket. So your button mushrooms, your portobellos, your chestnuts, they're all part of the same family. The family's called the Agaricus or Agaricus. So the first step in identifying this as a field mushroom is to identify it as a member of the Agaricus family. So let me take you through the key features to identify this as an agaric. So the first thing you'll notice as you're walking along is the white of the cap. So field mushrooms, as the name suggests, grow in fields and open grassland. So you will notice a white cap sticking out from tufts of lush green grass. So that's the first thing to look out for. Next thing to pay attention to once you've picked the mushroom is the colour of its gills. Now agarics have dark gills, so they'll have a white cap with dark gills on the underside. Now these range from dusky pink to brown to inky black when they're really, really mature. I'll show you some mature specimens on the screen now, just so you can tell how dark the gills go. It should have a nice stout stem, and the reason we pick the mushroom from the base instead of cutting it is to rule out some potentially poisonous mushrooms that are out there. So in order to rule the toxic mushrooms out, we need to take a look at the bottom of the stem or stipe of the mushroom. This is to make sure that it isn't growing from an egg sac. So some of the most toxic mushrooms that are found in the UK belong to a family called the amanitas. Now amanitas typically grow from a thing which is described as an egg sac at their base. So that's something you want to be looking out for when you're going out foraging for mushrooms. The two most toxic in the UK are the death cap. You see the egg sac at the bottom of it there, and the destroying angel, which is also a white capped mushroom. So if we look at this mushroom that we've picked, we can safely rule out it being an amanita. So I can't see any evidence of an egg sac, and if we look right at the base, it's sort of got a root-like mycelial structure that's covered in the soil, and that tells me that it was growing straight out of the ground. So when they're young, the Agaricus mushrooms will have a skirt on the stem, and you can sort of see the remnants of it here, but as they get older, it sort of gets brushed off, is very loosely connected to the stem. But when they're younger, it's quite pronounced that there is a skirt in the middle of the stem, and you should be able to see where the skirt was, even if it has been brushed off. So this is just where the cap was attached to the stem when it was in its tiny baby button mushroom stage. So you'll often find them as well, little button mushrooms. Now, there are two Agaricus mushrooms in the UK that can poison you. In fact, one of them causes the most fungi poisoning cases here every single year due to its resemblance to a shop-bought mushroom, and it's called the yellow stainer, or Agaricus xanthodermis. Thankfully, there are two easy tests to rule out both of these potentially toxic mushrooms. So test number 1, the yellow stainer, as the name helpfully suggests, stains yellow when damaged. So if you take your nail or a knife and you scratch the cap or the stem, then wait to see if it changes colour. If it stains yellow, then you have a yellow stainer. So what you're looking for is a dramatic colour change. So if it turns yellow really quite dramatically, then it's a yellow stainer. So that is one of the poisonous Agaricus, which could lead you to have quite a bad time. So that one should just be discarded. So again, this one's absolutely fine, but if it turns a really vivid yellow, then you've got a mushroom called the yellow stainer, or Agaricus xanthodermis, and that should be discarded. So this is a cross section of the baby button mushroom, and you can see that veil is attached to the cap there before it detaches, and you can see on this one where the veil was attached originally, it leaves sort of like a frayed shaggy thing on the margin of the cap, so that can be another factor for identification. But you can also see just how pink those gills start off as. So the final way to tell if the agaric that you hold in your hand is one of the edible members of the family is to smell it. So the two toxic members of this family, so that is the yellow stainer and Agaricus moelleri, will smell chemically. Now all the guidebooks will say that it will smell like India ink or phenols, but I have no idea what that means. I don't use India ink in my day-to-day existence, so it isn't sort of a reference point that's good for me. But what I can say is the yellow stainer does smell very intensely chemically. So yeah, just watch out for the chemical smell and you should be able to differentiate between the edible members of the family and the inedible ones. It is nutty, it is sweet, it is mushroomy, it's like a shop-bought mushroom but times 2. It really is beautiful and fresh. Oh, the aroma is, it's one of my favourite things. I look forward to this time of year every year. I know that it's not particularly exotic, but the field mushroom is common and delicious, and I think it's one that everyone should sort of know and keep under their belt. Now there is some variation in the aroma of agaric mushrooms. So the field mushroom's big cousin, the horse mushroom, smells faintly of aniseed. I'll show you that one a little bit later on in the video. And the prince, the king of all the agaric mushrooms, smells like almonds. So there is some variation, but you're just looking out for a smell which is delicious and not chemically at all, and you should keep safe. So you've got to rely on your own sense of smell for this, and that goes back to a point that I always make, which is always go into the field with enough knowledge to keep yourself safe. When you're out and about foraging for edible fungi, if you don't know what you're doing, then the chances of it going wrong are quite high. So before going out, get information from multiple sources. So it's an excuse to buy yourself some lovely field guides and mushroom books, or maybe go on a course where an instructor can teach you what's good to forage for and what to look out for that might be potentially hazardous. Failing that, a free way to do it is find yourself a mycological group that operates in your area. Now this is a great way to make friends. Mushroom people are weird but great. Some of the best people that I know are mushroom people. So you can find these by going on Facebook or just typing into Google your general area and fungi group, mushroom group, something like that, and you'll be able to find some people out and about that are into the same thing as you. Failing that, come out into a field, and if you see anyone looking a bit weird and staring at the ground, they're probably a mycologist. So yeah, just go up and say hi. No, maybe don't do that actually. We could get in trouble there. So this is one that's coming home in my foraging bag, and this is a spot that I shall be returning to over the course of the next few months up until early winter in order to get these lovely mushrooms. Because you can bet that where there's a few, there is lots, and you'll get them popping up all the way around this field at certain different times of the year. So keep watching and I'll show you the horse mushroom that I found a little bit earlier and take you through the identification process for Agaricus mushrooms step by step, so you know exactly what you're doing when you get out there in the field. Stay tuned. Now I've just come across this, which is very exciting. So this is I think is another member of the Agaricus family. And I think, I'm not too sure at the moment, I've got to run some tests, but I think this is a horse mushroom, just due to the sheer size of it. Look at that, that's in comparison to my hand. So let's go through all of the identification features together so I can walk you through how I identify edible agaric mushrooms. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to pick him by the base. So there we go. Now this has got me even more excited. So identification characteristic number one, if you remember rightly, is the white cap. There we go, we've got a beautiful white cap. If we turn it off underneath, he's got darker gills. Now this one has slightly lighter gills than the field mushroom that we saw earlier. So this is the sort of dusky pink that I was telling you about. So if you see here is a lovely example of the skirt or veil. So this is where it was attached to here at one point, and you can sort of see the remnants of where it was attached around the edge there as well. So he's got a skirt. He hasn't quite lost it yet. Sometimes these get rubbed off, and we can tell that he isn't growing from an egg sac. So here we can see that there's earth on the root of him. He's got a nice stout stem, and you can see sort of mycelial root structure in there. So this guy has come straight out of the earth, and he is absolutely beautiful. Look at the size of him. Now, to rule out the yellow stainer, we will scratch the cap and just wait a minute. So if you just run your nail down the cap like that, and if you just wait and observe for any sort of bright yellow staining. So you can see it's slightly bruised and got a bit darker, but there is no like vivid yellow coming up. And with the yellow stain, it really is like a vivid colour change. So another way that you can do this test is to pop a little bit of it in the microwave and just microwave it for a couple of seconds. That damages the cells, and then it brings on the colour change as well. So you can rule out the yellow stainer that way. So for the third and final test, we're going to give it a smell. Oh, it's beautiful. So it's soft, it's nutty, it's mushroomy, it's sweet. I'm not getting much aniseed on this, but there is variation with all these things. But yeah, it smells absolutely beautiful. So this is definitely one that's going to be coming home with me in my foraging bag. And next week I'm going to be releasing a video on my favourite thing to do with field mushrooms and horse mushrooms, and it's a really lovely recipe, especially as the weather's turning, and it is definitely turning at the moment. So from me and this beautiful mushroom, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up and hit subscribe for more foraging videos from this beautiful landscape. Take care. And Agaricus Moelleri. Can't say it. It's a weird shape of the mouth. I've got a weird shaped mouth. That's what I'm trying to say.